Today we fit a number of things to the frame, including the Thermatic Fan, Petcock bumpers, Snorkel. That's the new vacuum Petcock fitted. It didn't have any real issues. The screen on the long straw where it joined onto the brass tube on this Petcock was about 9mm in diameter and initially had trouble going through the floor of the tank, and I just ran a 9mm drill through that hole to ease the hole open. It was already 8.5 or something, so it didn't take much to get that to go, and it's sealed using the new gasket that came with it. So I also tried it on prime and the other two settings. There's something, so one thing that's strange, I believe straight down like this is on, but the tap turns in the opposite direction to this one that was on the Suzuki. Bring it round to here and it's on reserve, and straight up and down is prime. You'd think if that was reserve there, which is the only horizontal position, that this side of the tap is sort of pointing to reserve. So when it's like that, this side of the tap's pointing to prime, and when it's like that, this side of the tap's pointing to on. So it's a little confusing, and you do turn it the opposite direction to the other tap, I believe. So what's a little bit odd with it is this is the on position, and you turn it clockwise to go to reserve. Now the handle is pointing away from the reserve message there, and the prime position is straight up. On and prime are correctly labelled there, but really reserve message here should be over that side on the faceplate, and it's not like that. Tested that the prime position works and the on and the reserve position is shut off with no engine running. With the engine running, they both run free, so the vacuum side of it is working. So it's good enough for a $20 Petcock. You can see why I did the Petcock first under here. After the Petcock, you put this shield thing in. Then you put the brackets on for the Thermatic Fan. And then I gave the fan a bit of a clean up, only a brush really, because I haven't painted it, not knowing whether it works. I took the front and back covers off. Anyway, I had to clean out this connector, and I plugged in the handlebar switch for it. I've got the ignition on at the moment. And that's the fan blowing air out this side onto the motor. So that's a win. Got to be motivated enough to pull it out again and paint it now that I know that it works. And I think there's a drain hose still to go on it on the bottom that comes up and round to just a vent pipe for the motor, I suppose you'd call it. Yeah, that's running, and a little surprising, I suppose. Turn the ignition off. Okay, I've got the heat shield underneath this storage box. The storage box is in place. I think this is the one off the 89 bike. It's got a pretty rubbishy seal on the top there. There's a better seal on the 94 bike, but the 94 bike's got a melted floor in the storage box. I've got the taillight mounted and it's working. Crossing off a few more things on my list. I've put the bumper on. This is still just temporary. This is the bash plate underneath. These are stays for the plastics, if I ever get any. I've got those pieces. So there's a few more pieces to cross off the list. This rubber bumpery thing, sign, the hole mountings for them seem too wide. the holes aren't elongated enough, and the bumper itself seems to be sort of stretching around the outside as if it's shrunk, which it may have in the heat, or may because it hasn't been on the bike. They're M5 bolts in those little bosses on the bumper bar. I've got this, surprised I've got that. I don't have it on my 1990 bike. The 96 bike's got one, and it almost looks a bit stretched on it as well. My list of things to do is getting shorter. Bumper's done, bash plate's done. I haven't got handlebar grips, and I haven't got the console in place around the gear shift levers. I need to recover a seat, and I need to get some plastics for it. I've just done the stays, that's part of the bumper. I've done the fan mounts, and the screen in front of the fan. I've got to organise the headlight. Now, a new one on this list is this gear pedal. Not happy with the slop in the gear pedal. I've got an idea the gear pedal off the rusted as fuck 89 footrest may be better, so I'm going to pull it off that and try. I've got the storage box and the shield underneath the storage box in place. I've got the tail light in place. I still haven't put the U-joint boots on the back axle. That will require removing the swing arms temporarily. The snorkel's got a bust in it, and I need to do a repair on it. I've fitted the new Petcock, and I've fitted the exhaust shields. So there's not a lot of stuff left on that list. And walking around the shed, it's all the parts that I've got here tied up in those things. I don't have any plastics. I have some black pieces of plastic that skirt around the main pieces of plastic, but yeah, I got to look at that sometime soon. So this is a piece of Snorkel I got from the Chook shed parts. It's got a piece broken out of it there, and it's got rusty old hose clips on it. There's ones that I've cleaned up on this airbox, so I don't need those hose clips. I'll probably keep them and possibly clean them and put them in the spares box for whatever reason, but this seems very brittle. I was breaking bits more of that away, whether it's been affected by the sun, but I went over and looked at the other bike, and that piece doesn't really do anything. It's might just sort of come up a little bit square and is just closed off, so that's not a huge big deal. I think I can just patch that. I've got some Plastibond material that I think I can just patch that with, and then otherwise the rest of that doesn't seem particularly brittle. Well, I'm setting up to glue or put a patch over this hole, and what I've done is I've put a purple balloon inside the pipe there, and it currently sort of creates a blockage on the inside there. I'm going to improve that by jamming that little bottle in the end there and pushing the balloon down further, which will bring this balloon in here up a little bit higher, and then I'll put a bit of tape on that to hold that in. Then I'm going to mix some of this Plastibond material on this bit of card, fill the gap, and my idea is that I think this is a nylon material or HPDE or something that normally you can't glue, nothing sticks to it, so you sort of need a mechanical bond So with some goo in the inside and some goo on the outside, I think it'll create like a double-edged cap that will hold itself in place and stick well enough. Well, I changed balloons because the first one burst. Silver one in there now, and you can see it fairly effectively blocks that hole. I'm going to mix up some bog and get it in there before it deflates. The bog takes about 20 minutes to set up. That looks a bit ugly, but it may well do the job. You can play with this stuff for too long and it only looks worse and worse, so we'll see what it looks like when it's hardened, which won't be too much longer. Well, the balloon pulled out fairly easily. Would have left a quite a smooth finish on the inside. Probably a lot better than what I achieved on the outside, but this is only probably less than 20 minutes after the hardener was mixed in with this bog. I think it's probably formed a fairly good mechanical bond to this tube. A couple of strokes of the file, which it probably is only an appearance thing, can be smoothed out a little bit more on the outside there. Well, that's my finished snorkel patch. That one there is what the bump looks like on my 1990 bike. I'm surprised how similar mine's turned out with one go with bog. Just a few strokes of the file. That's the snorkel in place. Took a fair bit of juggling to get it in there. It needed to release the pad that holds the gear shifts down, because to get that to come in under this and over the top of the gear linkages here, the gear linkage on the outside here had to come off. A number of things shuffled out of the way, and only then it would only just fit. It's now back where it should be with this tab on the side. That's the breather from the rear brake drum coming right up here. I think there's breathers from the carburetor also got to come up here, and even a breather from the Thermatic Fan comes up to this point. But yeah, my little repair there, you would know it was done if you were to compare it with another one. More things done to tick off the list, so get out to your shed and have some fun yourself.